for listening to the Cactus Golf Podcast. Excited to have another guest this week for you guys. There's a lot of golf pages out there, but this one in particular caught my eye, obviously. I'm a guy who's trying to get better at the game, and how to get better than to follow pages that teach you how to get better, right? So I brought on George from Scratch Golf Tips. If you've seen them on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, I'm sure you probably have, honestly. But wanted to bring you on and to pick your brain and just to kind of talk about the page and how it got started. So George, welcome to the show. Appreciate you giving us some time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Of course. So let's start off from the beginning. What made you want to start, Scratch Golf Tips?
I think the inception of it was that I was looking for the equivalent of Scratch Golf Tips when I first started playing.
Okay.
I had just graduated high school and I was a baseball player. So throughout playing baseball, you can't work on a golf swing because those two swings are not the same.
Yeah, I played baseball, man. I heard that quite. My dad was my coach, so I heard that quite a bit, even at home. You can't golf if you're playing baseball. So
No,
how
sir.
much of it is actually true? Maybe it is. I don't know, but I know a lot of like one of my buddies who actually runs Cactus Golf with me. His cousin is an MLB player, but he's also a huge golfer too.
Mhm.
So how much of it really is true? I don't know. I don't know, but it was like the plague when I was younger, though. You stayed away from golf.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the issue that most people have is because the baseball swing is pretty direct and steep that when you
Yeah.
take that and you bring it to a golf swing, you just hit a big banana slice. That's just
Oh
how
yeah.
golfers play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, keep talking. So this is something that you kind of wanted to find and to create because it's something that you were looking for. So
Mhm.
you picked up golf, you said right out of high school, is that what you said?
I played a little bit, but then I started really getting into it and actually working on being a better golfer back in June of 2018, which is when Scratch Golf Tips formally started.
Gotcha. So 2018, was it a direct, direct incline as to how many followers and how quickly the page grew, or did it take some time?
It was always pretty straightforward. There were never any massive months. I'd say it took 2 months to really start growing it organically.
Mhm.
And then after the organic growth started right around August of 2018, it was just anywhere from 2 to 15,000 followers a month, which doesn't sound
Jesus.
like a ton, but when you add that over a couple of years, it starts that up.
No, that's compounding, man. It just compounds over and over. But 2 to 15,000 followers a month is crazy. I mean, that's some
Mhm.
growth that you'll see on TikTok, especially when it was first around. But to see that on Instagram and YouTube too, you guys have a pretty good following on YouTube. Over 7,000 followers on YouTube. Some people that
Yeah,
think that's small, but YouTube is not easy to get subscribers on it. Honestly, of all the platforms, at least in my opinion, maybe you would agree or not, but YouTube's
absolutely.
a hard one to get. So what does that look like? Are you taking content and chopping it up for each different platform? Are you posting the same thing on different platforms, or do you have longer content on YouTube versus some shorter reels or TikToks that are on other
So right
platforms?
now, all of the short form content that we produce lives on the Instagram. However,
Mhm.
the Instagram is largely curated content, meaning it's content from some of the best instructors in the country and now world
Mhm.
who send content to me, and then that is posted on Scratch Golf Tips. So that's the way that the Instagram page works. I
Mhm.
don't create a ton of that at this point. On YouTube, though, that is all something that I film and my team edits and creates. So, those who follow the Instagram page know all of the instructors,
Mhm.
Keith Bennett, Cameron McCormick, some of the really big names in instructional golf. And then
Mhm.
those on the YouTube more know myself as the lead contributor for that.
Very cool. So when you started off the Instagram page, was that something that like, were you just reaching out to these instructors saying, "Hey, I want to use your content"? Because obviously, right away, are these people going to be reaching out to you? It takes a little bit. You have to form those connections and establish a base before your presence becomes so big that they want to be on your page, right? When you start off with maybe 1,000 followers, less than 1,000 followers, you're getting scrappy. You're reaching out to everyone, sending all these DMs and trying to build these relationships to get them to allow them to post their content on your page. Is that kind of how you started?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, at 600 followers, I was DMing these people who at the time had 50 or 60,000. Luckily, it's a pretty easy sales pitch. It's,
Yeah.
hey, I'll give you free exposure. You don't owe me anything.
Yeah.
So I think that's how a lot of those earlier connections started. And then, once the page about a year and a half later got up to 100,000 plus followers, then, now I'm lucky enough to be in a position where a lot of great instructors offer the content. So
Yeah.
now, instead of me having to send out 100 messages every week, I'm sifting through those, and I think the quality of the content across the account is much better for that, because there's so many different contributors, there's so many different instructional styles, which
Hmm.
is, when I started SGT, the goal was, there's a lot of great instructional pages that are just one instructor,
Yeah.
but every week I post 14 different instructional posts from 14 different instructors. So you're getting different types of viewpoints, different types of teaching philosophies. And most importantly, in my opinion, you're getting instruction catered to different types of golfers, people
Yeah.
who, are 30 handicap, people who are scratch and they play 5 days a week. There's so many people that I can't, just target one sect of golfer.
No, for sure. I mean, do you know, like, I'm not sure if it's something that you would know because it'd be somewhat difficult. Maybe you can run polls and things like that. Of your audience, is it pretty balanced throughout, like, really experienced golfer to newer golfer, or do you favor one side more than the other?
Well, luckily, I have a pretty good analytics team that's given me some good numbers on this. I think right now the average handicap is in the high teens. So
Okay.
17, 18 is what you're looking at for the majority of those of the following. The following is very heavily golfers who are, in their mid to late 20s, early
Mhm.
30s. So those are golfers that like to golf, but because of work and families can't really go
Yeah.
out and practice 3 times a week and play twice a week. So you also have to cater the content towards the perceived lifestyle that the average audience member has.
For sure. And I like what you said too, because you can follow all these golf instructors individually, but you're only getting that one curated form of content and advice from the one instructor, right? For posting 14 different instructors every week. I mean, you're getting exposed to so many different styles and formats. You kind of learn quickly, like, oh, I like this guy. I like what he
Mhm.
talked about last time, or I like what she said one time, and you can start going down that path, from there. So it's kind of like a perfect introductory start for golfers who are trying to learn more. And have you it's I've talked to someone before. I forgot who it was, and I forgot what the page, I think what the company was, but they did a lot of online lessons. And
Mhm.
the biggest thought process is like, it was hard for me to realize at the beginning. It's like, how effective is this, like, for versus actually going and seeing someone in person. But like, it's pretty obvious, like, if either you don't do anything or you at least do part of it, right?
Mhm.
And online watching videos or online instructors is actually really incredibly effective, especially the technology they have nowadays too, where you can break down someone's swing from not even being in the same room as them. Crazy, absolutely crazy. But
Absolutely. I think from well, a lot of people know that instructional online instruction really grew during COVID in
oh yeah,
2020, but it was actually super prominent in 2018 and 19 when I was first starting. And I think the real value prop for that, there's two things that I see in online instruction. One of them is the golfer feels a lot less pressure. There are
mm,
new golfers who, if you're a 30 handicap and, sometimes you swing and you miss the ball, it's pretty intimidating to go into an instructional facility in front
yeah,
of, someone who's been teaching for 20 years. So I certainly understand that aspect of it. And then the other one is that it's wildly more cost effective. A lot of
yeah,
these instructors on Skillist is one of the
yeah,
popular ones that I've seen a lot. I
yeah.
think you can get 5 lessons for maybe $200, when in person a lot of those really great instructors are 100, 150 an hour.
Oh yeah,
So there's a lot of benefits to it. Like you said, there are obvious drawbacks. There's not
yeah.
instant feedback that they can give to you.
Hmm.
The statistics that you get on a TrackMan in a facility are very valuable, but there's absolutely a very good place in this industry for online golf instruction.
Absolutely. So going back to SGT. Well, I like how you abbreviate. It makes it a lot easier. Going
Yeah.
back to SGT here. What was the most shocking thing as you were growing this page? Was there something that like you thought was pretty straightforward and like something happened, you're like, whoa, I didn't really expect that to happen. Was there something along the lines that happened there?
I mean, there's been so many bumps in the road, and I've always looked at Scratch Golf Tips as, obviously it's a media entity, it's a social brand, but I
Mhm.
come from a background of business. I come from family members who have owned and grown businesses. I studied business in school, so I've always looked at it through that lens.
Mhm.
And starting something at 18 years old, you think that you know a few things, and then you get thrown into the real world and yeah, there's a lot of hiccups.
Oh yeah.
We've done website development, and that's not an easy task. That goes for a while.
Yeah.
Um, Scratch Golf Tips for the longest time, the high majority of our following has been on Instagram, and like you said at the top of the show, YouTube is a very important audience to have, and I
Mhm.
understand that, but it's incredibly difficult to grow a
Mhm.
YouTube. And I have a great springboard. I have hundreds of thousands on Instagram that I can
For
throw over
sure.
to the YouTube channel. But I think in my big strategy of growing Scratch Golf Tips, I thought that it would be much easier to build out the YouTube platform, and it's going fine, but it's hard work.
It is. It most definitely is. I mean, you see some pages out there that I think of like the good guys, like they have
Sure.
millions of followers, right? That's crazy to even comprehend. Millions of followers for some reason, like maybe it's just because like I understand like the social space too, and I'm sure you could agree with this as well, but like millions of followers on TikTok, especially TikTok, like a random person can just absolutely blow up on TikTok. They can post their
Mhm.
dog, and the next thing you know, they've got millions of followers. It's crazy.
Sure.
Doing that on YouTube is another animal, man. Like you have to capture someone's attention for such a long period of time to be able to have them watch you religiously and watch from the beginning all the way to end. Short clips is short attention spans. It's very, very fast and very easy to get someone hooked in. But you're throwing like a 20, 30, sometimes 40-minute video on YouTube to get someone to sit down and actually dedicate that much time to one thing is not easy, not by
It,
a
it's
landslide.
it's very difficult, and unfortunately, when you think of the social media landscape, TikTok has shaped it. In terms of follower count, it's been detrimental to a lot of social entities and social brands because, like you said, there are a ton of people with 5 million followers on TikTok, and it really dilutes the value of a
Yeah.
follower or a
Yeah.
subscriber because those are individuals who and no, nothing wrong with it, but they came about that following very fast.
Hmm.
They don't understand, what can come along with it, and a lot of them have made some big mistakes that have negatively affected the industry. But on the other side, no one lucks their way into 1 million YouTube subscribers.
No
It takes
chance.
high
Yeah.
production quality. It takes hard work, and you threw out the name of the guys in Good, and I know that Grant and Micah
Yeah.
broke away and they've created their own brands. It's great and they've done a great job, but I don't think people understand how much not only time but now money goes into those productions. When
For sure.
those good guys shoot an hour video, I mean, they have 5 cameras, they've got 3 editors, they've got marketing people. I mean, those are full-fledged businesses. Those guys aren't
Yeah.
they're not messing around.
No, for sure. Yeah, the behind the scenes, like people really don't understand that. Like even just editing this podcast, like pretty straightforward, honestly. It's not that difficult, but it takes time. Like even just sitting here exporting a video, even putting a video on YouTube and letting it upload takes forever. Like just those little things people have no idea how long and the editing piece to like truly create, like you said, like just a cinematic masterpiece. And like for YouTube, you kind of have to like TikTok, you can record from your phone really simple.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any editing, right? Putting something on YouTube like takes hours of editing. Sometimes people like that's their full-time job.
Oh
Out
yeah.
editing on YouTube for videos. Crazy. It's just absolutely nuts. Going back to you again is have you had anyone reach out to you, like DM you guys the page and say how much you guys have helped them in their game?
Yes, and that's always nice. I think
Yeah.
I often get caught up in the analytics because on social media it's very easy to do that.
Yeah.
But it's nice when you get positive messages about, I connected with this video and it helped, or the biggest compliment and the compliment that I always value the most is someone had to, golf with their boss and they were nervous about it, and they're more confident on the golf course as a result of online instruction. I think that, everyone has different goals in golf, but as long as you can step on a golf course and be confident and enjoy yourself, then I think that that's a job well done on our end.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even like you said, you definitely, especially with over 400,000 followers on Instagram, like posting a video, you can get caught up very easily. It's like, okay, how many likes, how much views, how many views is this getting, all this. But like, you might be affecting one person, and the amount of time you're putting out just to affect one person, like you just created a lifelong fan from that. I mean, they are going to tell everyone about you. Like, oh, I got a little bit better. I watched this video on scratch golf tips, and it helped me tremendously. You should go watch them. Next thing you know, you're getting another follower, and then the word of mouth just spreads. Like, it's it's going back to like the original times when like social media wasn't around. Like, you grew something from word of mouth, right? And nowadays it's so easy to throw a video on social, run it, throw some paid advertising behind it, and grow your brand that way. But if you are also able to do both and actually grow the word of mouth too, and affect one person at a time, and just, again, talk about earlier, compounding just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing. It just, the reward behind it has to feel so great. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it's, like I said, it must feel awesome to get those messages to be like, oh, I got something.
Yeah,
I
and,
helped
and
them out.
whenever things like that come up, or even on the opposite end, when I'm feeling kind of like things are slowing down and I'm having to kind of grind through things, I always think about my 18-year-old self. It may sound cliche, but it's true. And I think about, how amazing I would have thought it is. And I still do pinch myself sometimes, because it's
Yeah.
super neat to, have a big dream and a big goal. And I'm far from done, but
Yeah.
to have the progress behind me that I do, it's super neat and very gratifying.
Absolutely. You said you're far from done, so it's perfect lead to my next question. So we're finishing up 2023 here pretty soon. Where do you see scratch golf tips by the end of next year?
By the end of next year, we're putting a lot of resource into YouTube.
Okay.
I think we've been really hitting YouTube hard for over a year, and we've seen some good strides in that. A big benefit of YouTube is that the compensation is
Hmm.
much greater than Instagram, because you get paid per view on YouTube. You don't have that on any other platform.
Hmm.
I guess you have it a little bit on TikTok with the Creator Fund, but that doesn't really
Yeah.
count.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with YouTube, as that continues to grow, we're able to continue to put resource into it, better equipment, longer form content, better editing, and that's going to be the biggest focus. I'm happy with where the Instagram is, but continuing to put the head down and focusing on the future of long form, because in the trends that I've seen, platforms come and go. They always will. I
Yeah.
think YouTube is the most stable of the
Hmm.
platforms that most people create on. And I think if you're not prominent there, then you really are standing on some pretty shaky ground. So that's where the focus is. I'd really like to start collaborating with in person with some of the coaches that have been contributing.
Hmm.
um, I've had guys send me a really good instructional clip every week for 3 or 4 years, and I've never met these guys in person and sat down and spoke to them about golf
Yeah.
and their instructional philosophy. So I would like to see that in the pipeline for the upcoming year as well.
You think a podcast, you could do something like that? Is that what you're thinking? Or like, what is your thoughts behind it?
I've done a podcast. I had a podcast a few years ago, and as I'm sure you know, it's a lot of work having
Yeah.
to organize and edit, and like you said, the exporting process is never fun. But
Yeah.
I'd like to go in person and shoot long form video and host
Okay.
on the YouTube channel, 30
Yeah.
to hour long
Yeah.
videos.
I mean, it's kind of like a
Uh,
podcast, but you're in person. It's
mhm,
more entertaining than watching someone, just see their face, like seeing their
sure,
full body, seeing them swing, see them talking through the lesson. I'm sure is much more effective than listening to a podcast, especially for golf instruction. Like, listening,
absolutely.
there's podcasts out there. Like, I'm trying to think of Par. You ever heard of Par Train before?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, I forget what the guy, their name is. Ethan, one of them. I forget their names now. But they do more of like the mental side to golf, right?
Mhm,
But like, to talk about golf instruction, it's better to like see someone actually have the club in their hands versus like just listening, while you're driving to work. Because like, now I'm trying to concentrate on the road, and I'm trying to think of like, where am I, where's the power going here? My left foot, like next thing you know, you're 2 lanes over and it's not going to be looking good. So
Exactly.
I like that. That's awesome. I think that's a really great idea. And I'm sure, like you said, you made all those connections for the past how many years. It'd be cool to actually like see them in person now. Like, hey, like
Mhm.
thanks, like, partly because that's partly the reason why your page grew, right? I mean, obviously there's a lot that goes into it that you do, obviously, but like there are people are sending you videos every single week. It's free content, right? Like that's amazing. Like that's,
Yeah,
but
and
obviously
they
it
definitely
took
fuel the
something to,
fire.
yeah, but of course, obviously it took all the work to get obviously to where you're at. Not discrediting that by any means, too. So, a couple more questions I have for you. So, someone who's just starting a golf page, what's some advice that you would give them?
Um, well, unfortunately, the landscape has changed so much since I started. But even back in 2018, golf was a pretty saturated niche, and I can only imagine what it is right now for those starting. So, like I said, I've always treated it as a business, and I think if someone's starting now, they need to do the same,
Mhm.
and probably at this point put a little bit of money behind it,
Mhm.
in advertising, whether that's native or independent. I know it's probably not the most glamorous answer, but it's super saturated,
Yeah,
and I would say for someone first starting off, TikTok is probably the best way to get the initial numbers, and
yeah,
then I
yeah,
would work to get anything you have on TikTok away from TikTok onto
yeah.
Instagram or YouTube as soon as possible.
For sure. No, for sure. There's a lot of, like you said, a lot of shaky ground. Like if you have just a strong base on one, it's like, I can be a reference to that. Like we've got not near the amount of followers that you have on TikTok, but or Instagram, but we've got like almost closing in on 30,000 on TikTok,
That's
and like
great.
it was fantastic, but it's like took like just we didn't blow up. I mean, there was like one video I think that blew up that got us like maybe like 10,000, but the rest is just like posting every single day, right?
Mhm.
And for the longest time we put so much into TikTok, and one day we're like, dude, like what happens like if this thing goes away? Like we're
Yeah.
screwed. Like we were screwed. Like we gotta start pivoting here and start like branching off, getting them to go on these other platforms that are again more stable. What's your thought on Threads? Instagram's rival to X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. What are your thoughts on that? Is that here to stay, or is that just gonna just kind of fade?
At this point, I think the success of Threads is entirely going to be based upon the lack of success of Twitter.
Mm,
Meaning, if Twitter continues, and Twitter has been on a negative trajectory in terms
mm,
of public sentiment since Elon Musk has taken over, not necessarily because of him as a person, but because of how the algorithm has changed and how
yeah.
the privacy and security rules have changed. Um, unless something drastic happens to Twitter, I don't see Threads taking over it. But to answer the second question, it's absolutely here to stay just because it's under the Meta umbrella.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing we've learned about Meta in Zuckerberg's business dealings in the past 5 years, it's that he doesn't like to lose, and he's going to continue to put money into something until it inevitably fails or succeeds. So it's here to stay. I don't see it taking over Twitter unless Elon Musk was to do something pretty crazy. But at this point, I wouldn't put it past him either.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Honestly, who knows? It could. All right, last question I have for you, and a little staying in the golf space, but just your personal opinion. What's one thing that you would change in the golf space right now? Anything, whether it's anything from companies to way to people play golf. I mean, anything at all. What would you change?
I think the the first thing that comes to mind is the current state of OEM product development. Um, the frequency at which the big four, Callaway, Titleist, TaylorMade, and Ping, the frequency at which they're coming out with new products, I think sets a pretty dangerous precedent for the industry.
Hmm.
I feel like every 6 months we're getting a brand new driver with brand new technology, and with that comes an extra $100 on the price tag.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think golf, as any good sport needs, it needs a level of accessibility, and a lot of because the a brand new Titleist driver is $700. Used sets are now thousands of dollars. If you want to
hmm
get used 20-year-old iron woods, it's just so much money. And not only is it a money thing, because golf has never been an inexpensive sport, but
yeah,
I think that a lot of these companies are forcing innovation, where innovation really can't be forced. You sit down a group of very smart designers and you say, hey, we need an entirely new thing in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to put out their best product. It's
For
just
sure.
the nature of product innovation.
I agree completely 100%. I think of like first thing that came to my mind was Callaway. They came out with these new AI putters. Have you seen that yet?
I've heard about those. Yeah.
It's okay. Like realistically, it's like you jumped on the AI trend. Like AI became really popular in these past 6 months, and then Callaway is like, all right, well, it'd be pretty cool if we had an AI putter now. So like, let's just throw this bad boy out there and throw a nice hefty price tag on that too, because it's hot and popular right now. And again, that's capitalism, right? Like they have every right to do it, but like I agree. It like kind of it puts a precedent that now this happens every single year. New products, another $100. New products, another $100, and it's hard as a consumer to jump into that sport, jump into golf when you're looking at these price tags and you're like, this is freaking crazy. Like, what's the difference between the TaylorMade Stealth 1 and 2? Like, really? But number 2's got forgiveness. Like, really, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, come on, how much technology improvement did you just have between these two models? Like, there's no way. Like, you would have done it the first time if you had the technology for it.
And I think it's totally fine to be coming out with things every now and then if you have real innovation. And like you said, that's the nature of a capitalist economy. And the reason that they do it is because people are spending that money.
For sure.
And if you're in that position to do that, absolutely do it. No fault to you. But it does, for those novice golfers who are 25 handicaps, they feel a need to be spending, $3,000 on a full bag and club fitting where it doesn't matter. And like you said, with putters, an AI putter for $400, you can get a $20 putter off of eBay and probably putt much better with it. Putters, if you're going to spend a lot of money on a golf club, the last thing you should spend on is a putter.
100%. Yeah. And like these new golfers are spending all this money on their new bag, the new clubs, the ball, the Pro V1, and then they're still playing terribly. And then, that something else comes along. Oh, maybe if I get this new club, I'm going to spend a little bit more. And then they get caught in that trap. The next thing you know, they're going to quit the game because they're like, I'm spending all this money. I'm not getting any better. Like what they probably should do is follow Scratch Golf Tips. And realistically, this would help them out way more than spending all this money on all this equipment. So like how I wrapped it up there. I like nice little full circle.
That was a great tie-in.
I like it. Well, George, I appreciate you giving me some time and listeners some time to talk about your page and how you guys started or what you're growing on and what you're focusing on. So just again, really, really appreciate you jumping on here.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. Where can everyone follow you at?
On Instagram, it's Scratch Golf Tips, all one word. And then on YouTube, if you search up Scratch Golf Tips, it should be the first thing up there. So those are the two main platforms that we're posting a couple times a week.
Awesome. Well, again, I appreciate it. If everyone listening, please take the time. You probably should have stopped when we first started talking about them and got off of and went on Instagram or YouTube and started following them because as they post some amazing content. Honestly, it's thoroughly enjoyable. And like I said, we talked about earlier, you get such a diverse amount of instructors and videos on there. You can really try and figure out what you like to watch from there. So it's a really great starting point. So again, George, thank you so much. Thank you guys all for listening. If you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, leave a review, share with your friends, and we'll see you next week.